Most of us would agree that we don't like grammar, especially the tenses. In my 27 years of teaching the language, this has always been a major issue with most of the people. They always like us to go over the tenses, but they don't quite like the tenses. I've asked some of my students to present some of the tenses that they always say present the biggest challenges. If you take a look at the board over here, you'll see some of them. Someone asked me to please present the future. So there's the future. Now, there are actually 5 different tenses that we use to talk about the future. But I think 3 of them are very, very important to take a look at. I've put 2 of them on the board for today. The first one is the will future, and the second, which comes a little bit later, is the going to future. I think we should start first with the will future. So the $64 million question here is, when do we use the will future? Well, the will future has different ways of using it. One way of using it is to tell someone that what you've heard is a new idea. For example, you're saying to someone that something is new to you and you respond or give an answer which is a spontaneous answer. Take a look at some of the situations. A friend says, "I have a headache." You say, "I'll get an aspirin." Now, you did not know before that he had a headache. This is a new idea. Let's look at another situation. The phone's ringing. "I'll answer the phone." Again, it's a spontaneous thing. You do not wait for a minute or 2 before you answer the phone. You automatically respond by picking up the receiver. Someone says to you, or a friend says to you, "I'm going to sit in the garden." And you say, "I'll come with you." This is a new idea. The friend just asked you something and you responded spontaneously or instantaneously. So we've just learned that one way of using the will future is to talk about things which are new ideas, and so you answer spontaneously. However, there's another way of looking at that, and it's of course used to talk about or to make forecasts, especially distant forecasts. I've put some examples on the board to give you an idea of what I mean. In 50 years, cars will be able to fly. Well, we don't really know if cars will be able to fly because it's in 50 years, and that's a relatively long time. I think the weather will get better this weekend. Well, nobody really knows if the weather will be better or not. Chances are it will, but you don't really know because you can't plan the weather. You do? I think it will rain. Again, this is a forecast. So we use, in a nutshell, we use the will future to talk about spontaneous decisions, and we also use the will future for distant forecasts, things that will come in the distant future. Let's move on to the going to future for a moment. And by the way, yes, there are other ways of using will and going to, and no, I do not want to complicate the issue. I will keep it very simple. If you do have any other questions, feel free to subscribe or send me a mail at this email address. Okay, so moving along, the going to future. This over here, by the way, is just a construction. It's the way that we structure the going to future. It's with the verb to be. I am, you are, he, she, it is, we are, you are, they are, plus going to, and of course the verb in the infinitive. For most Germans, it's called the Grundform. That's what they call it. Now, when do we use this going to, and why is it different to the will? Well, the first thing is that we use the going to for our plans and intentions. I'll just translate this for the German viewers. Absichten. So if you're telling someone that you are going to do something, basically you're telling them that you have thought about this before, that it's not a new idea, and now you're going to do this. Remember, we talked a couple of minutes ago about the will future, and I said to you that the will future is spontaneous. It's a new idea. With the going to, it's not. You've thought about this, and now you're going to do this. I'm going to have a cup of coffee because I thought about this. The will future would be somebody asking me, would you like a cup of coffee? Yes, I think I will. That's spontaneous. Take a look over there. I am going to see a movie tomorrow because it's not spontaneous, it's something I have thought about. Frank and Rachel are going to have dinner at 8 o'clock this evening because this is something that they plan to do. This is their intention, as you can see. Sandra is in the hospital. Yes, I know. I'm going to visit her this afternoon because I've thought about this and it's not a new idea. If I use the will, I would say, Sandra is in the hospital. Oh, I didn't know. I'll visit her this afternoon. That would be spontaneous. This example tells us that we already know she's in the hospital and we're going to visit her. Negations, negatives of course. I'm not going to buy a new bike this year. It's something that I have thought of doing and I'm not going to do it. We're not going to paint the house. Or she's not going to have lunch with her boss later. This is something that she has decided not to do. So again, in a nutshell, we've learned here that the going to future tells us that something is not a new idea, it's something that you have thought of, whereas the will future tells me it's something which is a new idea and is spontaneous. Mind you, we also use the going to future to make forecasts, as with the will. What's the difference between the going to and the will? Making forecasts. Take a look. You see dark clouds in the sky, and so you say it's going to rain. Well, how do you know? You can see what's happening at the moment. So things are changing at the moment, and you are making a reference to what you see at the moment. Whereas today's Monday, I think it will rain in 3 weeks. Well, that's a distant forecast. Nobody knows if it will rain in 3 weeks. But you could say it's going to rain if you looked out of the window and you can see the indication of rain. So I've just presented a little bit on the future forms, the will and the going to. Mind you, there are other future forms, but I think this is something that should get you started. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe. If you didn't, still subscribe. I wish you a good day.